You've decided to go fly fishing in the dead of winter. You even know what flies you're going to fish, but how confident are you in your ability to rig up those flies? After all, your fly selection is different in winter than it is in summer. You're focusing on different water too. Does that mean you need different rigs to get your flies to the fish? Today, we'll cover 3 winter fly fishing rigs that have put tons of fish in the net for me over the years, and will help you do the same.
大家好，我是杰罗姆。今天我们要跟着油管飞钓频道著名博主 Ventures Fly Co 学冬季最稳的3套钓组。下面进入正片。
When choosing our rigs during the winter, we've got 2 things to focus on. First off, fish are trying to conserve energy, so they'll congregate in slower, deeper water this time of year. You'll need to get your flies down to where these fish are hanging out. Second, bug activity dies down significantly during the winter, so there's a lot less food for the fish to eat. Almost all of these food items are going to be subsurface. There might be opportunities to fish dry flies during the winter, but those chances are few and far between. Now that we've got a bit of context, let's dive into the rigs themselves. The first one we'll cover is the double nymph rig. This is probably the most effective way to fish during the winter. This rig uses flies that imitate the most available food item, nymphs, and gets your flies down into the strike zone in front of fish. It's also fairly simple to assemble. To do so, we'll put a 9-foot 4X leader onto the end of our fly line. Second, we'll snip off about 10 inches of tippet and add that to the end of our leader using a triple surgeon's knot. This knot will keep our split shot from sliding later on. Third, we'll attach our first fly to the end of the tippet using a clinch knot. Next, we'll snip off another piece of tippet and attach it to the bend of the first fly's hook, and then to our second fly, again using the clinch knot. If you're using different size flies, I'd recommend you add the bigger or heavier fly first and the smaller or lighter fly to the bottom of this rig. This will just make it a lot easier to cast, and it'll help your flies drift properly. Now, if your flies aren't sinking fast enough, a great way to help get them down is to use split shot. You only add this as needed right above that knot we made earlier. Finally, we'll attach our strike indicator, and during the winter you might consider sizing down your indicator for 2 reasons. First, the water is lower and clearer in winter, so your indicator is more visible to the fish. A smaller one is more subtle, and it makes less of a splash when landing on the water. And second, since fish tend to be more lethargic during winter, their takes often won't be as obvious. A smaller indicator makes it easier to identify when a fish takes your flies. Now that we've got our nymph rig dialed in, there's another rig that we'll use to fish our flies under the water, and that would be a streamer rig. Streamers are a piece of cake to rig up and to fish. First, you'll want some sink tip fly line. Remember, fish aren't as active in the winter, so you often need to get the streamers right in front of their face if you want them to eat. To the end of our fly line, I add a 5-foot piece of 10-pound fluorocarbon using a perfection loop. This shorter, non-tapered leader is a lot easier to cast, and with the sink tip fly line, it'll get down plenty deep. If you don't have sink tip fly line, that's fine. Just use a longer piece of fluorocarbon, around 7 feet or so, to help the streamer sink. Last, we'll pick a streamer out of our box and add it to the end of our leader using a clinch knot. Now, like I said at the beginning, a majority of the time you're going to be fishing subsurface with your nymphs and your streamers. But if you get into a winter midge hatch, congratulations, because winter dry fly fishing is a ton of fun. To fish dry flies, we will start by attaching a 9-foot leader to the end of our fly line. The key to remember with this rig is to go small. Midges are tiny, so everything about your rig should be small too. With these smaller flies, I downsize my leader to 5X. Next, I'll tie on about 18 to 24 inches of 6X tippet to the end of my leader using a triple surgeon's or blood knot. This extra bit of tippet is going to help you present your flies delicately and reduce drag. Then I'll tie on my small dry fly and you're ready to fish. If you have a hard time seeing that tiny dry fly, you could switch it out for a bigger one that is easier to see. Then add another 18 to 24 inches of 6X tippet to the bend of the hook and tie the smaller dry fly to the end of that. That larger dry fly acts like an indicator that helps you see your midge and shows you when a fish eats your bug. Now that you're an expert on rigging up your flies, it's time to learn where to cast them.